The old camera felt heavy in my hands, its leather case cracked and smelling of mildew. I'd found it in a dusty antique shop, tucked away in a corner cabinet next to a box of tarnished silver. The owner, a man with thin gray hair and a perpetually worried expression, sold it to me for $20, almost as if he were relieved to be rid of it. He'd told me it was a rare German model, but something in his eyes suggested he knew more than he was letting on. I took it home and spent the afternoon cleaning it. The lens was clear, and after a bit of tinkering, I got a new battery to fit. I decided to take it for a spin that evening, heading to a quiet, forested park near my apartment. The sun was setting, painting the sky in strokes of orange and purple. It was the perfect light for a good shot. I brought the camera up to my eye and looked through the viewfinder, but something was off. The image was grainy, almost distorted. I lowered the camera and looked with my own eyes. The view was crystal clear. Confused, I tried again. This time, I focused the lens on a small squirrel scampering up a tree. In the viewfinder, the squirrel wasn't alone. A faint, almost transparent figure stood beside it, a tall, spindly thing with no discernible features. It was a glitch, I told myself, a trick of the old lens. I snapped the photo anyway, the flash illuminating the fading light. When I looked at the digital display, the squirrel was there, a perfect image, but the shadowy figure was gone. This happened again and again over the next few days. I'd look through the viewfinder and see things that weren't there. A woman in a long white dress standing at the edge of a busy street. A small boy in a yellow raincoat hiding behind a parked car. A monstrous shape with too many limbs moving just at the edge of a crowd. Each time they were gone the moment I lowered the camera. They never showed up in the photos. I became obsessed, spending every spare minute with the camera, scanning my surroundings, trying to understand what I was seeing. The figures were never still. They were always looking, always watching something just out of my sight. So I started to notice a pattern. They were always near people, never alone. They seemed to be following them, observing them, but never interacting. It was like watching a sinister documentary play out through my lens. A world of silent, unseen stalkers that I had accidentally been given a window into. The curiosity was addictive, but the fear was a constant companion. What were they? Were they ghosts, demons, something else entirely? The true terror began when I realized they had noticed me. One evening, I was sitting on my fire escape, pointing the camera down at the street below. A man was walking his dog, and in the lens, I saw a tall, hunched figure walking a few feet behind him. The figure suddenly stopped, its form shimmering in the viewfinder, slowly turned its head, and I felt a jolt of cold terror as its eyeless face seemed to look directly at me. The grainy image seemed to sharpen, to focus. It wasn't just a glitch, it was aware. I scrambled back inside, heart pounding, and dropped the camera. When I picked it up, the small lens was cracked. I was shaken, but also a little relieved. The window was closed. For the next few weeks, I tried to return to normal, to forget what I had seen. But the feeling of being watched never left me. I'd catch a glimpse of a shadow at the corner of my eye, or hear a faint whisper on the wind, just at the edge of my hearing. I knew it was all in my head, or at least, I desperately hoped it was. One night, the old camera flashed on the floor. I hadn't touched it in weeks. The screen glowed with an image, a picture of my living room, taken from my hallway. I was in the photo, sitting on the couch, my back to the hallway, with a black, hulking figure standing directly behind me. The figure was reaching, its long, spindly fingers just inches from my neck. It was no longer a grainy ghost. It was solid. It was real. and it was inside my home. The camera didn't just show me the monsters, Kate, it invited them in. My hands trembled so violently they almost slipped from my grasp. I stared at the photo on the small screen, a horrifying snapshot of an impossible truth. The black, hulking figure was there, its form solid and terrifyingly real, standing just inches from where I sat. It was no longer a ghost in the lens. It was a guest in my home. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I felt the blood drain from my face. I needed to move, to get up, to run, but my body wouldn't obey. I was frozen, trapped between the image on the screen and the reality of the empty hallway behind me. A faint, sickly sweet scent, like ozone and rotting wood, drifted into the room. It was the same smell I'd noticed in the old camera shop. I slowly, agonizingly, turned my head. The hallway was empty. The door to my apartment was locked. My window was sealed. There was nothing there. Was this a trick? A hallucination brought on by my mounting fear. But then I heard it, a faint scraping sound, coming from my bedroom. It was a rhythmic, dragging, like something heavy and awkward being pulled across a hardwood floor. I knew the sound was coming from inside my apartment. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter, the cold steel a small comfort in the suffocating terror. The sound stopped. All was silent. The oppressive stillness was worse than the sound. I felt the air grow cold around me, a sudden, sterile chill that had nothing to do with the temperature outside. I backed away slowly, my eyes fixed on the hallway, the knife held out in front of me like a useless shield. Then, the door to the bathroom, just past the bedroom, slowly began to creak open. I watched in horrified fascination as the dark, narrow opening widened, revealing a sliver of inky blackness inside. Then, from that blackness, a single, elongated finger, pale and too thin, curled around the doorframe. Let out a choked gasp, and the door swung open completely. Nothing was there. The silence was a palpable force, and I knew with a chilling certainty that the creature was playing with me. It could teleport. It was in my home, but it was everywhere. It was a being of pure malevolence, and it was toying with me before it struck. I had to get out. I raced to my front door, fumbling with the deadbolt. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't get the key to turn. A low, guttural growl rumbled just inches from my ear. A sound that wasn't sound, but a vibration that went straight to my bones. I screamed, finally, and the key turned. I burst out into the hallway, leaving the door wide open behind me, and stumbled down the stairs. I didn't stop running until I was on the street, gasping for air, the cold night air a balm to my burning lungs. But when I looked back at my apartment window, my blood ran cold. The window was dark, but a single, pulsing red light blinked from inside. It was the camera, sitting on the end table, the red light of its sensor winking at me from the darkness. It was taking a picture. It was documenting the scene of its own haunting. I never went back to the apartment. I threw the keys into a storm drain and moved in with my sister. She thinks I'm having a breakdown, that the stress of the city got to me. I try to pretend she's right. I got a new phone, a new life, a new job. But every time I catch my reflection in a store window or see a faint shadow in the corner of my eye, I wonder. I wonder if the camera is still there, still watching, still documenting the things that watch us all from the shadows. And I know, with an unshakable certainty, that I will never be truly alone again. The glitch in the lens was just a taste of a world that is now permanently a part of me. It is a part of me that is still being documented,